Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and today we're going to make a Valentine. Here's the one that we're going to make. And notice the heart on it is why I'm calling it a Valentine. However, a heart is so versatile. You could make a heartfelt thank you. This could even be a hearty hello card. Just happens to have a heart on the cover. When I set it like so and I open it up, you can see the dimensionality inside. It reveals hearts and X's and O's for hugs and kisses. Now, in order to create this, we're going to start by making this background piece. If I turn this to the side, you can see that there are slits, and then the strips that go in the slits is what gives you this fun dimensionality inside, and it just sits open on display like this, and I think it's just really fun. To create the background, we're going to start with measurements. However, as I said, you don't want to forget, before you do anything, make sure you have an envelope that will fit. The envelope that I used, I think it's called an A7, but the dimensions of this envelope is 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. That will fit for the dimensions for the card that we're going to make today. I started with a long strip of white, and it's 16 inches long by 5 inches wide. Now, if you don't have paper that's 16 inches long, if you only have 12 by 12 paper, you can piece it at any of these fold lines. So you can do that. But remember, this doesn't have a photo, so you don't have to worry about it being acid-free. Even white construction paper is typically 12 by 18, so this 16-inch length will really not be difficult. So 16 inches long by 5 inches wide, and now we need to score. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to come in from one edge and go 3 1/2 inches and then score. I have a perforation here just to really make it show up. Then go another 2 1/4 inches and score again. And then go to the other side and do the identical thing. Come in 3 1/2 inches and score, and then 2 1/4 inches and score again. Now, once you have the score marks, you need to accordion fold. So starting at either end, you're going to start with a mountain fold, and then a valley fold, and then a valley fold, and then a mountain fold. And it will give you this card that has this fun action as it opens and closes. Now, in order for the insides to be dimensional, we need to create the slits where we're going to house the strips that have the hearts and the X's and O's on them. Now, let me tell you the dimensions so that you can see how to place these. Each of these slits, let me first say, they're about 1/8 of an inch in width, and they're about 1/2 inch tall. And in order to see where to place them, I came up 3 inches from the bottom for this first one and in about 1/2 inch. And that's 3 inches to the top of the slit. The next one, I came up 2 inches to the top of the slit and in about 1 inch. And the final one, I came up 1 inch and over 1.5 inches. Each time when I say over, it's from this score line. So just to kind of give you an overview, it's 3, 2, 1 for the height of it's 3 inches, 2 inches, 1 inches. And from the fold line, it's 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches. You do that on this side, and then you mirror and do the same thing in this other little pocket on the other side in the same exact location. So you have the mirror image on both ends of those slits. Now, what fits in the slits are those long strips, and let me show you what I did there. I'm going to bring up this whole sheet because we're going to be using it. What I did first is I started with a 5-inch strip, and it's 3/4 of an inch wide, and it's 5 inches long. And I started 3/4 of an inch wide because I need to cut out this little notch. So you can see that I cut the notch out. The bulk of this is only 1/2 inch wide, but you start with 3/4 so that you can have this little notch cut out. So you end up with this. And the notch is what makes it slide so easily into the slit like so. I'm going to pull this around and do the same thing. And you can see how it's going to slide in, and then it will freeze. Those little notches on the end will prevent it from coming back apart and staying in position. Because these are spaced like in graduated lengths from the fold line, each one of these will have limitations on where you're going to place the embellishments inside. So let me start with the first one. If I start with the first strip, I've actually measured and marked where I'm going to place these, and I think the easiest thing for me to do is to go ahead and place them down and then explain to you what the limitations are. I'm going to start, and the first, what was kind of the back strip has adhesive, and I find it easiest to put my adhesive, especially since I'm using removable. I'm putting adhesive directly on the strip itself. I know I can rub off whatever excess there is. This way I don't end up with all kinds of extra adhesive here that's going to stick when you only want it right where it overlaps with the strip. Now I'm going to place my red heart, and I've marked with a pencil where it's going to go, and I'll show you. The first time I did it, I just kind of played with it until I figured out where was the best spot for each thing. I'm going to place another heart lined up with the pencil lines that I've already marked, and then I'm going to place this final one in this position where I've marked it. So I have a row of 3 hearts, and I'm going to rub off, like I said, the excess adhesive. If there's any that's overlapping, that's the handy use of using the removable adhesive. As I said, once it sets up, it's permanent, but in the beginning, it allows you to manipulate and play with it. The reason that the marking of that was important is because of how this sits in the slits. How far in you have to go in order for the card to close. I think it's easiest to put the one that sits up high first. So I'm going to position this into place, slide it into the slits, and then slide the other side into the slit on the other end. Now when I go to close this, you want to make sure that it will close all the way flat like this. It limits how far your design can go before these edges start to impact and come in contact with the sides of the card. So what you want to do is place whatever designs you're going to place on this, what I'm calling the back strip. It has the most area that you can use, but you want to place it down and then close the card. Just lightly fasten it down and close the card and make sure it will close all the way flat. You're going to do the same thing. Notice how the next layer, instead of going out to here, I could only go this far. That's because these slits are further away, and when I place these in position and close the card, I need to also make sure that it will close flat. So when I close it, once again, make sure that as you close these, the side of the card isn't impacting the design. If it is, just move this around until it will allow you to close it flat. I couldn't fit the XO together and still have the card close flat. There was not enough room. I could only really go from here to here. So I put the O above the X. And I've gone ahead and I'm going to place this last layer into the slits. And I'll close it, make sure that it works. Ooh, it's right at that edge, just barely makes it. So if I open this up, you can see how the layers inside are starting to come through the slits. That is why you need to make sure when you place those down the initial time, you use light adhesive so that you can maneuver them. When you have those inside areas created, then you want to look at the cover. So what I did is I created a heart design that's going to go like so, but I also have a musical band. For some reason, I think of Valentines as music, romantic music in the background. So I used music paper, and I'm going to place the band of the musical notes so that it sits first. It's easiest to attach it first. And I'll start from the middle and then go to the outside edge. I'll go ahead and I'll place the colored band as well. So I'll put adhesive on a colored band that's going to go underneath. And just tuck it right against that music paper. And then I'll turn this over so that I can cut off the excess. If you wanted to measure it first, you could maybe start off with it being the right size to begin with. You're going to do the same thing on this side. The only difference is instead of using, I used red on this band, I used pink on this band, I would use red on this band. More musical paper up above. When it comes to doing the heart, I created the design as one solid piece first. I taped it together. Now I'm going to slice it down the middle so that I can attach the left side and the right side to the respective sides of the card. So I've already taped it You can see on the back I have the designs all taped together, and I'm going to think when I'd normally just walk over to the paper cutter and cut it so I could make sure it's straight, but bigger scissors will allow me to make sure that I have one nice long straight cut that lines up with my design. So I've cut it into two, and now I just need to attach each side. Remember, you're going to put more adhesive than this. This is just enough for me to show you how this works. So I'm going to lay this down so that my midsection lines up with the middle of the card, and then I'll turn over and add adhesive to the other side and position this so that it lines up with the other half of the heart. So you'll have the two edges that will come together in the middle, and then when you open it up, you have this cool design. When I go back to the original, you can see this doesn't give you a whole lot of room for writing a message. So what I decided to do was use the back. There's all this area in the back. You might put you could write a message here, but there isn't very much room to write inside. So I turned it over and I cut out a piece of red so that you could see how you could put your message on the back. You can, if you want to write it separate and then attach it, or you could just write directly on the card itself. But if you worried that you're going to mess up the card by misspelling a word, or you won't like your handwriting, you can do it on a separate piece of paper and fasten it over the top in order to create the finished card that looks like so. And remember, that's going to fit into an envelope just in case you want to send it through the mail. You know, a heart is so versatile. You can make this card as a Valentine. It could be used to celebrate a wedding or an anniversary, or even a thank you from the bottom of your heart.